Hey guys, what's up? Darcy here at 6 Strings 9 Lives. Welcome to episode 28 of 6 with 6 Strings. Today I'm going to ask the question, are these bands better or worse after a long hiatus? So for whatever reason, the band went away, years passed by, they're back. I think all 6 of these bands are still going to this day, and bands that I was into, from the beginning or very close to the beginning. A lot of bands that started off in the 80s. I've had this idea kicking around in my little notebook for a while. And so I grabbed 6 with, some big gaps just to get the conversation starting. Let me know in the comments some of the bands that you, that fall into this category that you still listen to this day. I was just thinking, have some of these bands kind of fell in a bit of a rut, kind of putting out some samey material. Not that it's pure shit. That is not, I want to be very clear on this. These 6 bands I still enjoy to this day, but whether I enjoy some of their earlier material or their comeback, definitely going to talk about some comeback albums, some very familiar names, especially in production. We'll talk about that too. But I pulled out a lot of albums, but I'm not going to really talk about each album as, per se, but I will hold it up just to get me talking and use it as a reference. So I'm going to start off with a band that I've enjoyed since early 1983. The band is Accept. So in what happened here? Let's go with, Udo leaves the band after 1986. They try one album with David Reese, and then the band goes away for only 4 years this time. But they come back with this very good album, Objection Overruled, and a couple more after that, and then they just kind of petered out, and things just fell apart. And then the band goes away for another 14 years, And I was also thinking at the time, was I really worried about these bands going away? Life was happening, things were happening. You just really didn't think about that. You just thought, okay, that is the end of the band, and I'm just going to listen to what I have type of thing. But then in 2010, the comeback album with a different vocalist, Mark Tennillo on vocals, Accept comes back with this awesome album, Blood of the Nations, produced by Andy Sneap. And maybe you can have a drink every time I say Andy Sneap in this video, because, man, his name is going to come up quite a bit. But what a great comeback album. Now, what I will mention in a lot of these, these 6 bands, they've really kind of stuck with the same production for the most part. Probably 4 or 6 out of these bands, which kind of leads me into, have they fell into a rut, or are they putting out samey albums? Are they just interchangeable type of thing? But anyways, this is a fantastic comeback album. I'm also going to show you their latest album that came out in when did this come out? 2020, yeah, right in the heart of COVID. It's too bad. But anyways, Accept is working on a new album, which you will most likely see in 2024, which will be their debut on Napalm Records. So they had, this is the 4th of the comeback, I believe. 4th or 5th? Fifth of the comeback. Now this is, I really do enjoy this album. There's a couple in between, but let me know, is Accept, have they kind of fell into that, just putting out samey stuff again? Good stuff, yeah, a few weak tracks here and there. But like I've said before, I always seem to find, something good in these albums. I still do enjoy these bands. I would like to think I don't hang on to them just because they're who they are, but maybe I do to a degree. I don't know, but still enjoy it. Next band we're going to talk about is one of my favorite thrash bands of all time. They put out an album in 1999, which is one of my very favorite albums from them, and that's Testament the Gathering. We don't have to talk about the early work of Testament. I mean, if you're watching this video and you're a fan of, you know, thrash metal and stuff. You know all those albums. But after this, 1999, they go away. Chuck Billy had a battle with cancer. They reformed for like a benefit show. And then things started to take off after that. They recorded, I'll throw this in here. It's not really part of, but if you've missed the boat and you've never heard this, they re-recorded tracks on this album called First Strike Still Deadly. Andy Sneap definitely involved in this one. But I've said before, this is one of the best re-recorded albums I've ever heard. Probably still my number one. I mean, that new Sodom one, 40 Years of Hell or whatever it's called, that's really good too. But this is the best re-recorded album from Testament. So anyways, after that, 9 years pass. And comeback album, I was so excited when this came out. I heard the news, and still to this day, this is my favorite of the comeback Testament albums. Again, produced and mixed and mastered by Andy Sneap. This is The Formation of Damnation. This one, wicked drum work on this one from Paul Bostaff. Highly recommend this one. If you've actually missed this one, go for it. But after that, yeah, they had Dark Roots of Earth. Also, Andy was involved in that. And then I will show you their latest album, Titans of Creation. This came out in 2020. Love this cover artwork. But this one actually, I really enjoy this one. This might be my second favorite of the kind of the return. Testament's pretty much on a 4-year plan. So I was hoping they'd put out an album this year, but it looks like 2024. Now, production-wise, this one and Brotherhood of the Snake, which was more self-produced. They did have, I think, Andy Sneap mix and mastering it. They also had Juan Ortega involved. But in this one, Juan Ortega got more involved in this one, and I think it is one of their better ones. I really do enjoy this. But I think overall what's been happening over the past at least, 2 to 3 albums for these bands that I'm going to show you, they're just they're not trying anything really new. I would say if you took actually the last 4 Testament albums and kind of just threw every song into a blender and dropped them out 10 at a time, it wouldn't change much, if you know what I mean. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm not bashing them or, I am picking on them a little bit, but that's okay. We're all big boys and girls. We can take care of that, no problem. But anyways, that's my take on Testament. Their album that should be coming out in 2024, I don't suspect much will change. Eric Peterson writes most of the riffs. He's a great riff writer. Chuck Billy, great vocals as usual. They got a solid band. They have a new drummer. I forget his name, but yeah. So next up on my list, we're going to go with, hey, let's go with this one. This is a band that's really, in my eyes, done nothing wrong over the years. They got a bit of a bad rap with the Beavis and Butthead thing, and Lars putting up a picture of Kip Winger on his dartboard on the recording of the Black Album, which is whatever, bunch of shit. But 1993, Winger comes out with Pull. Fantastic album, enough said. Then they disappear. They disappear from 93 to 2006. So 13 years until their 4th album called 4, which I don't own. It is a tough one to get on CD. I would love to pick it up. But then they came out with another bigger gap. They came out with this one, Better Days Coming, which came out in... Actually, there was another one in between that, but I don't own that one either. But Better Days Coming came out in 2014. So first gap with these guys was 13 years, and then there was also a gap between this one and their newest album. but just top-notch musicians. Like I said, they've done nothing wrong. These are great albums. But kind of why I wanted to feature Winger is these bigger gaps. So from Better Days Coming to their newest album, 9 years go by again, and they still came out with an awesome album. This is a 2023 release. I'm definitely going to feature this. This will feature high on my year-end list for sure. I can promise you that. One of my favorite tracks of the year, kind of an earworm for me, is the last track, It All Comes Back Around, which, come to think of it, would have been a great title instead of 7. Been using the Phoenix on the cover quite a bit too, but I would definitely have, titled this one It All Comes Back Around. But what a great song. Check that one out. There's so many great tracks on this album. And Reb Beach, the whole band just shine. What a great guitar player he is. Kip Winger. Yeah, his voice isn't exactly what it used to be, but he manages very well, put it that way. So couple big gaps, and there've been actually a lot of gaps. So, and yeah, I mean, we're not getting any younger. I've said that before. So hopefully there's not another, is there even time to have a 9-year gap between this album and Winger 8? Who knows? So go with that one, and let's go with a band that I do not need to talk about their first 2 albums much. And that is Mercyful Fate. Melissa, Don't Break the Oath. But I just wanted to mention a couple of other albums you need to check out if you are, if you kind of ended it there. But after that, there was a 9-year gap until their return, which was basically a return. One second here. A return for Mercyful Fate Band and King Diamond Band, or solo work, however you want to put it. But this one came out in, 93, comeback, In the Shadows. So 9 years since Don't Break the Oath. But this one and the next one I will show you are just underrated. Like, don't skip over them just because you're, so attached to those first 2. In the Shadows is definitely one to check out. Just a very strong album. My favorite song on here is called 13 Invitations. But yeah, The Bell Witch, Egypt, The Old Oak, great track. Is That You, Melissa? Check that one out. And then they returned the very next year with another one I do recommend to you. Pretty good after that 9-year gap to still have these going. But this is Time from 1995. And then I also had mentioned before that King Diamond got going again. They returned with The Spider's Lullaby in 1995. So busy guy, period. But yeah, don't overlook this one. Time, I would say, not quite as strong as In the Shadows, but I recommend, one of my favorite tracks on here is Lady in Black. But Angel of Light, Witch's Dance, and the title track, Time. Some simple lyrics and melodies in there, but it's creepy good, put it that way. So there's Mercyful Fate, Time, if you've kind of missed those ones. And what are we going to wrap? Oh, we still got 2 more, actually. Now, this is one of the bands, actually, I'm spinning some Death Angel in the background. This is one of the bands where this one and the next band, this topic kind of got me to revisit some of their other work, which we'll talk about. I got this. So Death Angel, 1990, Act 3 comes out. Fantastic album. And then, some unfortunate events occurred, an accident, things like that. So 14 years go by until 2004. And they come out with this comeback album, which I have this clamshell package from Nuclear Blast. I actually am hoping these get reissued on vinyl again soon. But they come back with The Art of Dying, which this one does feature, is it Dennis or Gus? I think it's actually, yeah, it's Gus Peppa on Yeah, Andy on drums, original drummer, and Dennis Peppa on bass and vocals. So this is the one I said this kind of subject got me to revisit these albums, and this is a really good album. I really enjoy this one. Dennis sings a song on here. Andy sings a song on here. You know, I love his drumming. His drumming is, I don't know, it's so fitting for this band in the early days. His drumming it's not so perfect precision. It fits, put it that way, if you know what I'm talking, or if you know what I mean. But yeah, I really enjoy this one because I'm thinking, you know, when they put that album out, and then in 2008 they put out Killing Season, which is a pretty good album too, just not quite as good as The Art of Dying. And then 2010, some lineup changes. Dennis and Andy are gone. They bring in, well, I forget the two guys' names now. Whatever, it doesn't, well, it does matter, but I can't remember them. They come back, and they've had this lineup now for, well, since 2010, so 13 years. They came back with this album, Relentless Retribution. Now, the biggest thing that you will notice, and you probably have already noticed, is Mark's vocals. He is just really pushing it. It's too harsh at times. It really is trying too hard, because when I went back to listen to The Art of Dying, which is the comeback album after 14 years since Act 3, the vocals are really good. He is not pushing it like he is on these latest albums. There is some very good albums in those albums. As a matter of fact, this is my favorite from this period of the past 4 albums. You got that, A Dream Calls for Blood, and then the latest album from 2019 called Humanicide. But The Evil Divide is my favorite, but there's still, Mark is really pushing those vocals. And what they've done here since Relentless came out till Humanicide, they've used the same guy, Jason Sukoff, on production and mixing. Not that he's a bad producer, but I just think sometimes change is good. You need to mix it up, even try to, you know, get out of that rut. And not necessarily a bad rut, like, you know, but, you know, try something different. Try a different guy. You know, sometimes they always say a different pair of eyes sees different things, obviously. So, but yeah, still my favorite from their kind of their 2010 till now era. But man, just if you got a little bit of homework for this one, go back and check out The Art of Dying. Let me know what you think or what you've always thought of it. We're going to wrap this one up with a band that I picked on a little bit a couple of videos ago. You know, kind of, am I still interested in these bands, or are they losing me? And that is Exodus. So we had 3 thrash bands in here for sure. But you know the story, Exodus. They had some, first 3 albums are fantastic. Even Impact is great. Kind of fell off the rails a bit in 92 with Force of Habit. And then boom, there is a large gap. There's a 12-year gap until this comeback album, Tempo of the Damned. Fantastic album, great riffs. I think Steve sounds really good on this, but there's some just strong songs on here. My favorite is Blacklist, and then Shroud of Urine, War is My Shepherd, Calling the Herd, just almost top to bottom. But then Steve gets fired from the band, things kind of fall apart a bit. So this album's from 2004. So what they did is they turned around in 2005. They got Rob Dukes in as on vocals. I'll be honest, at first I wasn't really that receptive to Rob on vocals. I thought he was a bit, I don't know, shouty, for a lack of better word. But again, the topic of this video got me to revisit some of those albums, and I have been revisiting, you know, not just last week or last month, over the last few years, to be honest with you. There's one in here that I've always loved, which I'll talk about, but the other ones I've really grown to, almost love them. They're heavy, great riffs. The vocals are actually, to me, better than Steve's vocals on the past two Exodus albums, if you believe that. But here is their 2005, like I said, 1 year around, shovel-headed kill machine. Paul Bostaff on drums. So there's another familiar name. We got Andy Sneap involved again, which he's involved in a lot of the newer Exodus albums. So here's one for you to go revisit. Let me know if these are some of your favorite Exodus albums, or do you even like the Rob Dukes era? Because you know what? Those albums are growing on me over the years. But and what was I going to tell you? But the latest two, Blood In, Blood Out, and Persona Non Grata, I do feel like they're in a bit of a rut. And again, not the worst rut, but I said, what was it? Did Gary Holt say it? That, this album's going to be, these riffs are as heavy as fuck. Not totally necessary, but if you want to go dial it back to a couple albums ago, here is my favorite of the Dukes era. This is the Atrocity Exhibition, Exhibit A, from 2000. I forget when this one came out, 2007. So yeah, if you've never heard this album, check out the lead-off instrumental called Call to Arms. It's 1:30. It's just a builder. It's awesome. Right into Riot Act. Couple notable tracks on here would be Children of a Lesser God. And my favorite track on this album is the title track, the Atrocity Exhibition. This one is the second album to feature Lee Altus on guitars. But man, there's a breakdown on that title track. There's a breakdown in the middle. It's just really good. The vocals are, I think Rob is finding his way by this album. This would be the second. He did 3 studios and 1 kind of re-recorded tracks. But yeah, there's kind of my take on some of these bands. So we got some of these later albums. Are they sounding the same? Are you okay with that? Do you tend to go back to their earlier stuff? Do you favor some of that? Yeah, same production, a lot of same names, for a few of these bands anyways. But there is my take on that. Let me know in the comments some other bands that you would kind of put into this category that you still listen to and love to this day. Always love the recommendations in the comments section too. So hope you enjoyed that one. Until next time, stay heavy.